Yes, good morning everyone. 1 hour of food for food coming up right now.
Well, welcome everybody. It's time for free practice 2 ahead of the final, yes, the final round for 2024. And not since Santa told Rudo he's got a new turbocharged sledge have we been racing this fast, this late in December. It is the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the 13th World Championship Grand Prix, to take place here at the Yas Marina, where Cole has won 10 of the 12 races here, including 9 in a row. Qualifying tomorrow is going to be massively important. Max Verstappen's got a track record. There are 16 corners, 9 to the left and 7 to the right. Maximum speed of about 201 miles an hour, and then you get the extra boost for the DRS, taking you up to about 215. And here are the tyres, C5, C4 and C3. It is the softest compounds in the Pirelli range, the soft, reducing lap times that were about 0.8 of a second better than the medium compound tyres in the first practice session, where we were already quite a way faster than we were 12 months ago here in Abu Dhabi, and expect that to continue. Now that the sun is setting, the conditions have got a little bit cooler, the air temperature and the track temperature just dropping slightly, and that helps with the times as well. big crowd in for a Friday. The yachts look amazing in the harbour. The grandstands are just slowly filling up, and Anthony Davidson alongside me in the commentary box, looking forward to an FP2 session where now we get all the 20 race drivers. The FP1 drivers have done their thing for the day.
Exactly, Crofty, and a bit more representative, isn't it, with the temperatures, the track conditions. Obviously the circuit's still rubbering in more and more, but in terms of the ambient conditions, it's going to suit their setup work when it comes to qualifying tomorrow in the similar conditions.
Yeah, so Charles Leclerc, we ought to address that one first. Looked really good when he finally got out onto the track. They had to change the battery, lost about half an hour, and now we're thinking, Ferrari are in the game here. Constructors battle, this could be close. But that 10-second grid penalty, that is a major, major blow to the Scuderia.
Yeah, the 10 places that they're going to suffer because of that, it can really hurt you. You can overtake, though, on this circuit. I think, well, it's based on the 2010 race, I believe, where people fell out of love with this place a little bit in terms of overtaking. It's not like that. It has definitely improved. The power units themselves are a little bit of a wider window now in terms of where they operate. You can go way above their peak power before you get to the rev limiter, as poor old Pierre Gasly found out in Vegas. But you can, when you open the DRS, at least over-rev the engine a bit, whereas the old V8 engines couldn't do that. Your peak power is so close to the rev limiter that even if you had DRS open, you just sat on the limiter, so you couldn't overtake it. So I think that's where this circuit got a bit of a bad rap, but nowadays much better. But so I think, it's still difficult for these drivers to overtake each other, and it's not the preferred option.
In the midfield, I think we do see a lot of overtaking. Changes of lead, not necessarily all the time, and Charles is going to have to come through at least 10 cars, or Carlos is going to have to put in a stonking performance, and Ferrari hope that McLaren have a bit of a bad day.
They need a 1-2. If they've got any hope of winning this Constructors' Championship, they know the mission. They've got the brief. They need to finish 1-2. That has suddenly become an even taller order.
And for Williams, a tall order as well, because not one but two cars have a grid penalty for this weekend because they've got a new gearbox in. So that's another 5 places for Alex Albon and for Franco Colapinto. So 10 places for Charles Leclerc for a new battery, 5 places for Alex Albon and Franco Colapinto. So whatever happens in qualifying, they're going to be sitting here on the Saturday evening trying to work out the grid order.
And apparently Ferrari knew of this problem in Qatar, and so it didn't come as a surprise to them. It did to us, but not to them. So it was a known problem. I think it must have been during the race, or maybe it was a battery they'd used in testing. Either way, that's why they were so quick to get to work on it.
5 o'clock here in Abu Dhabi, and it is time to get going then. And if you want to ride on board with any of the drivers in this session, you can do so. You need your Sky Sports app, your Sky Sports login, but if you're watching, there's a QR code for you right on the screen now, but if you're watching on Sky Q, Sky Glass or Sky Stream, or now, then you can use the interactive button on your remote control when taking part in this session. After missing FP1, Carlos Sainz, Oscar Piastri, Lance Stroll, Max Verstappen, Yuki Tsunoda and Alex Albon, as out of the tunnel comes not Esteban Ocon, but Jack Doohan, who is taking part in his first FP2 session in Formula One.
So not only could he do the rookie time behind the wheel in FP1, he's also out here now. It's great to see Jack out there. Really intrigued to see how he's going to perform this weekend, and obviously a race driver for next year as well already.
Let's look at Jack's career then, and he's picked up wins, hasn't he, in FP2. He's absolutely no slouch. He's the 784th driver to start a World Championship Grand Prix, the 16th from Australia. He's going to try and emulate Mark Webber, who was the last driver from Australia to score on his debut. 5th place for Miami at the Aussie Grand Prix in 2002. And comes into this off the back of 6 wins in F2. The pedigree, if he was a racehorse, the form is looking good. Mick Doohan, 5-time world champion, is his dad. He knows all about racing. Jack has been in that Alpine garage now for a couple of years, watching on, waiting for his turn. But how do you rate Jack Doohan's career so far?
I think he's had a really strong career. That's why I'm excited to see what he can do behind the wheel of a Formula 1 car, and it's not like he's a complete rookie getting thrown into the deep end here, and we saw that in FP1. And the reason for that, for those of you that missed FP1, is because he's been doing lots of TPC days. Testing of previous cars, which the rookie drivers are allowed to do. Even the race drivers are allowed to do a certain amount of TPC days in the year. And so you could see his quality there, you could see his experience, and Alpine, as he said in his own words, they've been giving him the best opportunity possible. It's the same for Kimi Antonelli, by the way, with Mercedes, giving them the best opportunity possible to try and hit the ground running when they finally get their chance.
So he gets his chance, deputising for Esteban Ocon. And Esteban Ocon going to Haas. He'll take part in the young driver test, but he has been released a race early from his Alpine career. This is Jack Doohan making his way to the hairpin at turn 5. They've taken out that horrible little chicane. And I say horrible little chicane because it was an horrible little chicane before the hairpin. It's helped overtaking, hasn't it?
It really has. That was a solid track improvement, I believe. And as is the taking away the next fiddly section of turn 9, which used to be 9, 10, 11 and 12. So, yeah, they've sped up the circuit. And the thought behind it was to create more stress for the tyre. Get a faster track going on, higher speed corners like this one here at turn 9, puts more stress through the tyre, you therefore degrade your tyres more, opens up more strategy possibilities for the strategy team. So, and I think it's worked in general, and they've even sped up this part of the track as well, 13, 14, opened them up, relieved the corners slightly, and so it's all in a bid to try to just generate more load through the tyres.
I mean, we have 53 on-track passes in 2022, 60 on-track passes in 2023, which is not bad. You know, it's a decent amount as Jack crosses the line with a 126.4, everyone on the medium compound tyre. But if I was going to be super critical, and someone's had a bit of an off, a momentary leaving the track, I think it was Zhou Guanyu, got going again. If I was going to be a little bit critical, I'd like to see a tighter turn 1 and a longer main straight to promote a bit of overtaking. So the cars can stay fairly close to each other in the final sector, but then give the car behind an earlier chance to make a move into turn 1. But the trouble is, there's a waterway in the way, and they can't really extend the track back.
Yeah, just to drive turn 1, 2 and 3 as you go up and over the hill, that's a really nice track to drive on. But yeah, I agree with you in terms of overtaking possibilities. It's not the best, and maybe turn 1 could be a bit more of a sort of mistake generator, as they call it, where you can get the car moving around. Maybe it just needs a little bit more of a tricky curb on the exit, just to really make the drivers work a bit harder. And I look at corners like Bahrain final corner as an example. It's so maybe it needs to be sort of more like a double apex corner. Just catch you out before you're flat out over the hill, and then that can give you a chance to get in the slipstream before turn 5.
Verstappen crosses the line with a 125.9. This is turn 1 that he's making his way on a cool down lap to right now. And you can take that easy as you want during the course of the race and run out a little bit wide, and you're away.
The problem is it's actually turned into quite a high-speed corner these days. It's taken in 4th gear in the race, 5th gear in qualifying sometimes, depending on which car you're in. So yeah, it's that kind of speed that creates the turbulence. The faster the cars go through the air, more turbulence, they kick up out the back. And on a circuit like this one, where you run close to maximum downforce, those big wings create even more turbulence. So that's what the front wings are searching for. They want clear air to bite into, and you don't get that when you're following another car too closely.
So we talk about the blow for Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. McLaren are 21 points ahead of them. It's a personal blow for Charles Leclerc that he gets a 10-place grid penalty, because he starts this race 8 points behind Lando Norris in the battle for second in the championship, and it's that rogue red dot on your screen there that's the problem. A 3rd energy store of the season. That's why he's got that 10-place grid penalty. Otherwise, would have been a perfect year for the Ferrari power unit. Ted Kravitz, good evening, how are you?
Hello, Crofty. Hello, Anthony. Hello, everybody from the pit lane. Yes, very well. And you know, the battery that when they fired up had a misfunction or a malfunction, they had to change it, I think isn't the last twist we're going to get, Crofty, in the story of this championship. It seems like something else happens seemingly at the beginning of every session. But the golden ticket for Ferrari, I guess you could say, the worry for McLaren is that the Ferrari is quick. That's what the McLaren analysis, according to their team boss Andrea Stella, showed. Team ready?
Quite a lot of vibration with the rack.
Understood.
New steering rack then, or non-vibrating steering rack, please, for George Russell. Yeah, Andrea Stella said the McLaren analysis of Leclerc's run once he got going showed that the Ferrari is the team to beat. Yes, you heard that correctly. All they have to do at McLaren is optimize their package, get the most from their package they can, and then hope for the best. Clearly, the 10th-place penalty will have an effect, but yeah, according to Stella at McLaren, you know, maybe we could see Carlos Sainz winning his farewell race with Ferrari. But yeah, plenty going on down here, Crofty.
Wouldn't that be a story? His last race for the Scuderia, Carlos Sainz signs off with a victory. Oscar Piastri, a little bit nervy, I think, making his way through the traffic there, and I can quite understand that, to be honest. He had quite a few cars to navigate. Round one more corner he goes, track dips down a little bit, and the dash to the line sees him go fastest by 8/100ths of a second from his teammate Lando Norris.
It's impressive he went fastest with all that traffic around, and even though you're not completely getting impeded, it's just the visual distraction that a driver gets when you have cars around you like that is enough to lose you a couple of tenths, of course. So Norris improving, Sainz on a personal best, he navigates his way around the final corner and he takes top spot for now. But look at this lap, where is Lando on the circuit? Here we are, pick him up, pick him up just for the flat out right-hander. Penultimate corner there of 15, then into 16, feed the car in early. Oh, the rear end looked pretty good there as he could get on power nice and early, and 2.5 tenths in front of his old teammate Carlos Sainz.
We're on the medium tyre, and we haven't got the soft tyres on this evening yet. We're already half a second faster than we were for practice 2 last year. And that is why it's getting a little cooler. The sun's starting to set yonder on the horizon. I can see it from our commentary box window. It's always a glorious sunset here.
You can also see the windsock as well, can't we, Crofty? And,
well, you like seeing the windsock.
It's very good. Yeah, it's just yeah, a little bit, tiny bit of the tailwind going into the turn 6. So that's after the long straight, heavy braking zone. So that's it's good news for the drivers. Yeah, the cars aren't getting blown around anywhere near as much as we've seen in the past here, and what we saw as well just last week in Qatar.
Now, somewhere between our commentary box and the setting sun is Martin Brundle at turn 6. I promise you there's a direct line between us and the sun and Martin Brundle. Oh, he's down at turn 5. I was told turn 6. Sorry, Martin. How are you?
Yeah, turn 5. We're going to turn 6 next. But as always, you're ahead of me, Crofty, on these things. So this is a hairpin. I mean, look at that beautiful grandstand there. This is not a racetrack. This is a sort of a racing palace, basically. This is a grandstand for just one corner. It just goes all the way around this facility here. And it's about 65 miles an hour in the middle. I say it's a hairpin. We'll wait till somebody comes down here flat out. Lots of cars going around, so we'll see that in a moment. Just look at the deceleration of the Mercedes of George Russell there, and the speed he carries through the corner. So whilst it might look like a hairpin on the map, and theoretically, the drivers don't seem to know that. They just rock up absolutely flat out, hit the brakes. Cars look rock solid. They squeeze the throttle pedal, leaning on the curb on the outside. I'm sure of some sparks there. Just complaining a bit as they put the throttle down. Now, back in the day with normally Asprey, I'd have 55 millimeters of pedal travel on the throttle. Jacques Villeneuve like 35 to 40. This was like an on-off switch. Now their throttle travel, I'm told, is 100 millimeters, 10 centimeters or more, because they need to squeeze the power on. They've got so much torque when the electrical unit is kicking in as well as the turbocharged V6 engine. And that is why they're so smooth. Watch the Ferrari come through here now. of Carlos Sainz, picks up the throttle, and he's backed out of it. Actually, he got traffic in the way, and it's just really at this end of the season they're really in touch with their cars, and the cars are well set up. We know they're going around here faster than they have recently, and just a little short shift there from the Ferrari. That's a technique if you want to try and just dull the power a little bit. Don't wait until you're up near the rev limiter to chip. They don't go that high anyway on these things because the torque is lower. Just pull the gear a little bit early, just dull the torque, dull the power, and then the car doesn't complain through the exit as much. So an awful lot going on for what is just one corner. Now, of course, I can hear some of you cheering, going, that's the corner where Max Verstappen overtook Lewis Hamilton in 2021 to win the World Championship. And you would be absolutely right. I can hear others of you already from here groaning about that. But it was a bit of a genius move in there on that particular lap, whatever the rest of the circumstances. So it is just a little hairpin in the far end of the circuit, but there's an awful lot to see. Back to you, Crofty.
Thanks ever so much, Martin. On the other side of the grandstand is Ferrari world, of course. Now, what's going on in the world of Alpine and Jack Doohan? This big lock-up going into the chicane, turn 6 and 7. You don't want to do this very often. It looks even worse off-board.
Yeah, it's strange that it's the outside front, actually, not the unloaded tyre on the inside that's locked up there. So, yeah, maybe they have to make some balance adjustments for the brake bias. And you also have brake migration tools.
Sorry, engine drivability, low RPM, was that, Max? Yeah, just power. Still, the understeering is ridiculous.
And Max Verstappen currently a second off the pace, 6th fastest.
Yeah, it's strange. It's like two different messages almost rolled into one there. I'm trying to work out how the understeer and drivability, the engine are linked. Maybe he's just got not enough retardation. Again, through the tools, if you can use the harvesting basically of the electric braking to handbrake the car around in effect through a tighter corner. So would you mention that? Would you class drivability? I don't know. I'm a bit torn with it. Maybe two messages there rolled into one, perhaps. But it's the only thing I can think on that side. Going back to Jack Doohan's problem with the fronts just locking at the end. Again, you can be using the driver tools that are available to you, and that's where a lot of simulator work comes into play. A lot of the TPC days, the testing of previous car days that he would have done comes into play. You have to learn the steering wheel like the back of your hand. You've got to be familiar with it. It's like driving your road car that you've had for years and years. You know, all the controls are. But when you change car or drive a higher car or whatever, it's suddenly all a bit of a mystery. And it's
the air condition button.
Exactly. And that is the same for the F1 drivers as well. So that's part of the beauty of the sim, is that you learn it second nature, all the controls are. And now, as we look at Sainz, Leclerc, and now picking him up because he's on a good lap here, currently sitting 3rd fast. He's still on those medium tyres with the fastest of all first sector. Through that turn 15 we go, full throttle. Nice. You've got the graphics there as well. Yeah, the car was well planted, and again on the exit, full confidence to send it full throttle. Picks up a position ahead of his teammate, but yeah, the Ferraris definitely look fast, but maybe not faster than the McLaren. The McLaren's going to work well here as well.
Meanwhile, Max has already had 2 front wing adjustments during the course of this session. He's come in, they've adjusted the front wing, sent him back out again. And that in a bid to cure that understeer issue that he said he had?
It can be. Depends whereabouts you've got that understeer. If it's more high speed, then yeah, for sure the wing can do it. And the wing will work as well at low speeds. It's not like you only get the downforce at high speed and therefore your balance of aero balance at high speed. They're working all the time, because even a slow speed corner for a Formula 1 car is still, like where Martin is standing, it's still 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, so it's not exactly slow, is it?
It's not exactly that slow. And that's the reason why we run maximum downforce in places like Monaco, for example. It's a slow speed track, so it goes to show that the wings do something at slow speed.
Now, we'll all remember the Sakir Grand Prix in 2020. What a race that was. Sergio Perez last at the end of the first lap, went on to win it. George Russell made his debut for Mercedes there, led 59 of the 87 laps.
This is quite often you see the snap of oversteer that George had on the way towards the apex of that corner, and then it catches up with you again on the exit. It's quite a familiar sight, actually, down at turn 5. It's a very difficult corner to get right. Braking at the 50-metre board, because you're not arriving.
Late, isn't it?
Yeah, it's because you're not arriving that fast, and there's no DRS on the run down towards turn 5. And as Martin pointed out, it's not really that tight a corner. It's not really a hairpin. And they're in 3rd gear when they take that corner at that 60 mile an hour. So you brake and turn in at the same time, and they call it trail braking, where you're turning and braking deep into the corner, but not that hard.
Right.
So they trail brake way into the corner, and that's why the rear starts to get a bit light.
When they go through turn 4, which is just a little kick flat out 8th gear, they're doing 175 miles an hour, and they're not decelerating until the 50-metre marker board. At what stage is that not going very fast? Just out of interest.
In an F1 car, 170 miles, it doesn't feel that fast. It's funny. It's built to do that job. And the downforce. So it's totally different to a road car. The faster you go in a road car, the more unstable it feels, even in a straight line. But in an F1 car, any car with wings, basically, and creates downforce, you've got peak grip at your fastest speed. So that's what it's hard for people to imagine, but the car feels at its absolute most stable there.
Cockpit's still reasonably toasty.
Copy that.
Get some bread then. Get some bread. See if we can get it to toast. But I would imagine it's warm air, isn't it? So you're not going to get a cooling effect.
Such a Georgism, isn't it? Reasonably toasty.
This is the man who wore a jumper coming into the paddock.
I thought he was off to go and play some cricket or something.
George Russell, currently 6th fastest overall, feeling that toasty effect. Maybe he too is dreaming of chestnuts roasting on an open fire as we're here in December. Lando Norris is fastest.
There's your favourite chicane, Crofty.
It's not my favourite chicane. It's my favourite chicane. Now it doesn't exist, to be honest. I just didn't understand that chicane at all.
Well, they had to try and slow the cars down before a very tight corner. Yeah. You couldn't have barreled into it, like you just said, at over 180 miles an hour, and then to this really tight hairpin. Yeah. So what they had to do was, when they wanted to ditch that chicane, they had to bring the corner back, actually. And therefore, they had to open it up more. So in an ideal world, you would have the original turn 5 as it was. Well, what used to be turn 7. Is it now 5?
Max, how is ride, please?
It's bad. It's not really my problem. The car, the front axle is just not working.
So he's not getting the grip. It's not turning in as much as he would want it. Because does Max like pointy car, throw it in, catch it, and bring it back a little bit? Is that his driving style?
Yeah, I mean, I think he likes a lot of front end, and he's got quite a precise style, as Matt, very precise style, and he's quite calm on the steering wheel. So he can therefore, I think, get away with a car that's a bit more edgy, a bit more pointy to drive, and that's where your front wing comes into it, and that's what he's missing right now by the sounds of it. But again, he was asked a question about the ride of the car. So how's it? Is it bouncing? Is it touching the floor? But he's come on and talked about the actual balance of the car. Yeah. In my opinion, two quite different things.
Is that little snap for Charles Leclerc?
Yeah, like I said, turn 5. It's quite normal here, and see how they've painted that with the surface now black.
I don't know if I destroyed the black.
And we'll check box, Charles, box.
Yeah, might have. Well, it's definitely sparked away. It's not the first car I've seen do that, and actually, I think that bit of painted black surface on the track is almost encouraging to run further onto that curb than ever before. They do it because of track limits, but unless there's gravel there, I don't really understand why they've done it. All you're doing is just opening the corner up.
It's proving a point. We always say if you move the corner a bit wider, they'll go even wider still.
Yeah, that's right, and to the point where they're damaging the car potentially over the curb. But yeah, we saw in Qatar really good use of gravel on the exits. I like that. It challenges the drivers more.
I don't know why that's not put in here as well. I thought Qatar. And I know the FIA have been working hard to introduce this throughout the season, and it worked, and no one was complaining about it, and it stopped the track limits or as many track limit violations.
It really did.
And they could put it in here.
Yeah, I think it's something that I think we first saw come into play in Austria, didn't we, this year? Just a removable gravel trap, because other categories of forms of racing use the tracks, like motorbikes, for example, and they don't like gravel strips of gravel. Because it's more dangerous for them, so they don't like that. So you need a system where you can put the gravel in, take it back out, and that's what we saw in Qatar, and Austria and a few other circuits should adopt it as well, in my opinion.
Franco Colapinto on the soft compound tyre. Welcome back to Abu Dhabi. Carlos Sainz in his 88th and final race for Ferrari this weekend. And Max Verstappen, the man who's won for the last 4 years in a row here from pole, not happy. And Charles Leclerc, the man with the 10-place grid penalty, who's finished runner-up in each of the last 2 years, back in the garage having his floor checked over. Ted is down there.
And that involves 4 mechanics on their sides, like they're going to sleep, or on their backs, and then shuffling down underneath the Ferrari, Crofty, to actually inspect the plank. So it's quite an awkward thing. I think they could actually do with putting the car on some stands, so they could actually get up and have a look at that. It seemed okay. The mechanics are not getting up and actually saying, yes, there's a problem with the plank. So it looks like there won't need to keep Leclerc. There's something happening, Crofty. Come in if you need to. It looks like they're not going to have to keep Leclerc in the garage for any longer time before they do the tyre runs. Usually a two-stopper around here, isn't it? And we're not seeing that that's going to be a change anytime so far this weekend. But you never know with safety cars or anything like that. Could turn into a one. But on the other side of the garage, yeah, Carlos Sainz looking a bit happier with his car down here at Ferrari.
Yeah, not often we get a safety car here in Abu Dhabi. We've had 5 in the previous 12.
Is that a joke? Sorry.
No, it's a fact. We haven't had one since 2021. And you can say whatever you want to that, Ted.
I'm coughing 2021. I honestly thought you were joking, but no, you're not.
No, we haven't.
No, as a matter of fact, you're correct.
When we do, it becomes a bit more significant.
There was the one.
There was the one.
There was the one.
We still remember it. The rules weren't followed. We know that. We've read the report. It's not going to change. What can I say? Probably nothing, because whatever I do say is going to be wrong. So I try and ignore it, to be fair, and carry on with the present.
Shall I just review it again on the Skypad after this session?
Great idea. And you'll find that we should have had an extra lap behind the safety car.
I didn't do it on the day. I wasn't here, so yeah. Let's reminisce.
You give us that one. That might just be that be your gift to Lewis then for his last race with Mercedes. This should have been your championship. We all know what happened, but it isn't going to change, I'm afraid. Lewis Hamilton fans who still contact us on an almost daily basis about Abu Dhabi 2021. I really want Lewis to win an 8th World Championship, just because he did, on driving alone that night, he deserved an 8th World Championship. But, you know, live sport is live sport, and things happen sometimes that don't go according to plan. That was that.
Oh, well said, Crofty. And that's why we tune in, isn't it? That's why we love any sport, because of its unpredictability. And it can be unpredictable even when rules are followed.
It can go well, it can go against you. Live sport. And I'd also like, probably less so, or with not as much magnitude, so we say, Kevin Magnussen to do 113 kilometres on Sunday night. It's all you need to do, Kevin.
Why is this?
Because then he's got the 50,000 kilometres of racing laps in his career.
Excellent.
And he deserves that.
Do you get a trophy for it? Or?
You do. You get a 50,000 kilometre trophy. It's like your watermanship badge when you do swimming. Kevin Magnussen, who of all the races completed by Danish racers, 215 of them, has started 184. And he used to be a McLaren driver once upon a time, which is the best segue I can use, to go to Zach Brown down on the McLaren pit wall. Thanks for joining us, Zach. We haven't spoken to you since the news came through about Charles Leclerc's penalty. I'm sure you'd want this championship fought out on equal terms, but that's, in a tennis parlance, kind of advantage McLaren, is it not, that 10th-place penalty?
Yeah, I mean, clearly it puts Ferrari at a disadvantage, but a lot of practice left. That can happen to any of us at any time. Also, I think we saw great drivers like Max go from P17 to P1 under, you know, some different weather conditions, but, you know, Charles is perfectly capable of pole. 10 good spots back, he can make that up. So we just got to stay focused.
So, give us a focus then of how FP1 went, what you learnt about your car, and what you're now taking into FP2.
Yeah, our car's good. We knew it would be good, but we also think the Ferraris probably have a small advantage here at this circuit. Of course, expecting Max to be right up there, and the Mercedes, given their recent performance. So free practice 1 went kind of as expected. I think the times this early evening will be more representative of qualifying, given the time of day. Right now we're all on mediums. We'll head out here on softs. Actually, it looks like we've just gone out on softs, do a little bit of performance running, get a little bit more of an indication.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Zach, just going out on the soft tyres now with a group of all the other cars. Is that something, so you do expect the balance to be the same on the 2 different tyres, and therefore the performance of Ferrari, you say, who are looking pretty quick at this stage, will remain on the soft tyre? What can we expect basically from these soft tyre runs coming up now?
Yeah, we tend to like harder tires, so the compounds this weekend of C5, C4, C3 are not the pick we would take. If we could go with what we think is our most competitive advantage, we'd go a little bit harder. Ferrari's very good on the softs, so I expect them to be pretty tough here.
Is that because you work the tyres harder than Ferrari, you feel?
Yeah, we're good on our tires, especially over long runs. So harder tires over long runs seems to really suit our car, and the way our downforce and our car mechanically works, we seem to optimize the harder tires more than others.
And is that something, let's look ahead to next year, you've not even got this year over with yet, is that something that back at Woking you're looking at to try and cure and find a solution to for next year?
Yeah, of course. Anytime you have a deficit with your race car to the competition, we're also a little bit off in our car in the slower speed. We're really strong in the higher speed, so we'll try and keep our advantage where our car's the strongest, and then work on where we have some weakness and constantly trying to prove it. Unfortunately, the competition's doing the same thing, so we can't expect them to sit still and not address their issues as well.
We'll try and sit still through this, Zach. Oscar's on a lap on the soft tyres. Thanks ever so much for joining us. Take us through this, Ant.
Yeah, so we already had a bit of a wiggle through turn 1, a bit of a snap of oversteer mid-corner, and maybe it's what Zach was talking about with just trying to get these tyres into the right operating window early enough in the lap. And as he heads his way down the back straight, the DRS, here we go, pick him up again. As he comes towards turn 6, bring the car to the outside of the circuit. You grab a bit of that white line as well for good measure. It's a smooth, still part of the circuit, so you can use it all. And again, on the exit, fully over the curb, and then wind it up before turn 9. You're looking to brake as late as you can. Not a heavy brake though. You don't want to upset the balance of the car. You don't want to tip the nose down too much as you brake into that one. And then full commitment on the exit from Piastri. Norris has bettered his first sector though, as Piastri now heads through turn 12. Swing the car left into turn 13 over that awkward off-camber corner, that section there, through 14 as well. And then that penultimate corner, 15 full throttle before that final corner. Send it over the curb on the exit, get on power as early as possible. Short run to the line, and goes P1 for now, but Norris behind him, his teammate absolutely flying, 2.5 tenths up.
1:24.3 for Lando Norris is his best time so far. So let's actually compare his time at the end on the medium to the soft. Magnussen goes second fastest. Max Verstappen crosses the line, only 6th fastest on those soft compound tyres.
But he was compromised a bit in that final sector there. Crofty had a little bit of traffic and would have cost him some time, at least through turn 14, yeah. Bottas second fastest.
A 1:24.3 becomes a 1:23.5 for Lando Norris, medium to soft, 1.2 second advantage. Over and ahead now of Piastri. Bottas, who won here in 2017 and has now gone 3rd fastest ahead of Kevin Magnussen. Carlos Sainz pops his Ferrari up into the top 3, can't get into the 123s. That's a really, really storming lap from Lando Norris, straight out of the box on those soft tyres.
Yeah, really strong lap by him. What's this going on at the back?
That's if you can't fix it the first time, hit it harder approach to Franco Colapinto's floor. Look how much tape is on that floor.
I wonder where he's picked up that damage from. We're going to see it here.
Into 6 and 7 we've gone. This is turn 9. Had a wiggle, didn't he, on the...
Oh, yes, this, of course, yeah. We were talking at the time, and yeah, I did see this. I remember that replay, and yeah, apologies, I forgot to mention it when we came back, but yeah, that was a rough ride. That's exactly where he's picked up his damage.
Charles Leclerc going on a lap on the soft compound tyre.
Yeah,
another lap.
Still doesn't grip up.
And it wasn't just being compromised with traffic that was Max Verstappen's problem. He ended up as second off the pace and was losing time 2/10 to Lando Norris in the first sector alone.
Hamilton on his push lap, already 3/10 down by the end of the second sector. And now we come into the really tricky hotel section, as they call it. So you go under the that bridge momentarily, the hotel, and then try and get on power. Look at the throttle graphics on the right-hand side of the halo there. You see flat out through 15, and then brake turn into the final corner, but I don't think it's going to be quite enough for Lewis Hamilton. A track he loves, of course, but yeah, P4 for now.
Lando Norris fastest then, 0.8 of a second he improved by for the second weekend running. I try and do subtraction while I'm talking, and I failed miserably. So let's go to turn 6, where Martin Brundle really is this time.
I am indeed. It's a tiny little corner, 45 miles an hour. We see overtaking into here. There's a runoff, goes underneath the grandstand over there. I always thought, first time we came, I thought, that's a bit skinny actually, but I've never really seen anything down there too much. So this is about heavy braking, getting off the brakes, getting all the shifting done way before the corner, and trying to just kiss the inside apex of the corner where that orange mound is. But of course you don't want to hit that, because that's way higher than the right height of the car. So if you hit your tyre across that, you'll just jump. And it's really quite a difficult little section, very technical. And you don't realise how much undulation there is here in the racetrack, because as they go through 7, again over that clumsy little curve, and this is where we saw Nico Hülkenberg upside down once through the outside of that corner, saying he was hanging upside down like a cow, which I was never quite sure of the analogy there, but he was absolutely right, because he was upside down, hanging in his seatbelt. So when you do that, you have to be careful when you undo. I've been upside down like that. You undo your seatbelt and you hit your head on the roof, or indeed the racetrack if you're in a single-seater. That's another story. This story is about, again, just dancing. So heavy braking, direction change, turn in, direction change, what effectively makes it a chicane. There's another DRS detection point, drag reduction detection point just the other side there for another long straight. And it's this kind of corner really where you make up all the time. You'll have heard me say that trackside before, but you spend so much longer in a corner like this than you do a super high speed one when you're Harry Platters on the throttle. But getting this right, getting off the brakes at the right moment, getting into the corner without losing time, not carrying too much speed, because the car will do a little bit like the Red Bull there of Sergio Perez did, just understeers a little bit through the corner. And as soon as you do that, that tightens up the next section quite a lot as well. So you'll be slower through that, slower down the next straight. Look at the cars now glistening as the floodlights take over from the natural light here, and the cars really look superb coming through this corner. So back to you, Crofty.
Thanks ever so much, Martin. We just see George Russell running wide at the final corner. Nico Hülkenberg, by the way, who's on a run of 6 consecutive Q3 appearances here, has gone 3rd fastest, and we are riding on board with Charles Leclerc down that back straight. You bypass the traffic.
Half of the grid is freaking sleeping.
Copy.
They are in the middle of the way.
4.
Where are the cars in the way? What's the line you'd ideally take there, or want others to take, Ant?
Well, I think yeah, going down the back straight, it's not ideal to have cars that are kind of staggered out of position. Ideally, you'd want them lying astern, and so you're not really sure where they're going to end up. Are they going to commit to going onto the racing line? They're going really slow for a start, so I think that's what he meant by sleeping. They're going that slowly. Why we have a delta to stick to in qualifying when it matters.
We might talk a bit more about that a little later on then. Ted, at Williams, down to you.
The Ferrari drivers are always well caffeinated, aren't they, Crofty? We had Sainz with the old "wake up, guys" in Las Vegas, was it not? And Charles saying everyone's asleep.
Well caffeinated.
Well
is that
caffeinated.
A verb to caffeinate?
Yes, of course it is. I am well caffeinated. It's a replay, I think.
Lando Norris in turn one.
Now, the wobble that you saw from Franco Colapinto, I'm sorry to report, Crofty, has had session ending, it looks like, consequences. So they're inspecting the underside of the car, and it looks like they've found something that can't be repaired within the next 25 minutes or so, because as you can see, the car is on the hard stands. The mechanics are going about their business very slowly. Franco himself has wandered off, probably to bemoan his luck or his judgment or whatever. It was only a small mistake, but it looks like it's been pretty costly. So yeah, no further running on the tyres to understand them. Puts Franco Colapinto, of course, on the back foot. Yes, I suppose you could argue the car is still in one piece, or rather now it's in about 5 pieces, but they'll get it fixed in time for tomorrow. But yeah, it looks like I'm yet to have it confirmed exactly what he's damaged, but it looks like the car's not going anywhere in the immediate future.
Thanks ever so much, Ted. Oscar Piastri was locking up, running wide at the final corner. Jack Doohan is, I think, doing a bit of the same, but already before that was losing a lot of time.
Yeah, Doohan, yeah, quite a way off of his teammate. It was 4 tenths away. So yeah, a little bit of improvement from Jack to come. But the moment that Piastri had going into the final corner, Crofty, I think that was just the fact that he ran quite hard onto the curb before turning in. So the exit curve of 15, the corner before. And as he was on the brakes, I saw the front of the car quite violently hit the ground. And I think that's just what caused that lock-up. Yeah, similar to that actually, but that was the rear end for Doohan. So it's this extra bit of painted surface, this black painted surface. Again, it's just allowing them to run out further before turning into the final corner.
So is the quickest way not to take the old line, as it were, and not run out so fast?
Yeah, you can use a little bit of it, of course, but now they're into territory where maybe they're using more of it than they ever have before.
Yeah.
So I think there's a compromise to be found there. I think it's a little bit unnecessary what they did in that penultimate corner. The car's got so much grip now that it's not really a grip limited corner, as they to use a bit of engineer speak.
1:24.8 was the fastest time in FP2 last year. 1:23.5 is the quickest time that we have here tonight. That is 1.3 seconds difference in favour of this year.
Well done. Right.
Really hot.
Turn 13.
To subtract and talk at the same time.
Your math's way better than mine. The only maths that Lewis Hamilton cares about right now is where he is on his delta. And you see the top left-hand side of his dashboard. Every time that goes green, it means he's up on his personal best. And any time it's not, that means he's down on it. So he stays, well, it's P5 for now. His personal best middle sector on that particular lap.
Yeah, fairly consistent with his best time overall for Lewis Hamilton, as he remains in 5th place. He had a 1:24.119 as his quickest time. That was a 1:24.126, and there's the work going on. Franco Colapinto's Alpine, Williams. Alpine, we saw 4 points ahead of Haas in the Constructors' Championship. Amazing how that battle has ebbed and flowed throughout the season. Nico Hulkenberg, what a year for Nico Hulkenberg. 10 Q3 appearances in 2024, 9 Grand Prix finished in the points, 3 sprint races finished in the points, and add to that 7 11th place finishes in 2024. So on 7 occasions he's been 1 place off the points. Could have been so much more for a Haas team that have absolutely risen to the challenge this season.
And they were fast again, weren't they? The Haas brothers in this in FP1. It's not a fluke that they're up there again in P3 as he is right now. It's not a fluke because they were up there in P1 in FP1 as well. So I hope it can continue. Am I right in thinking that they have brought updates to this race as well, because they're embroiled in that championship fight of their own?
Which is worth a lot of money.
Yeah, I must say, Ayo Komatsu, you know, hats off to him for how, I wouldn't say turned the team around, but definitely gave them,
turned the team around.
He's given them a direction that they need. I felt like they needed. The whole outfit feels more professional than ever before. And I just really appreciate, I like his engineering-led style that I feel the team needed and is therefore flourishing from. And I think high hopes for next year for them.
It started off in Bahrain, where they went testing, and it was forget about the soft tyres.
And the performance runs,
and those qualifying simulations. Everything is about the race, because the one problem we've got at Haas is not qualifying, it's our tyres going off after half a dozen laps. So they pounded around Bahrain, and they found the solution, and they've just been chipping away all year long with points finishes. And in the background, he's now got Toyota involved and a partnership with Toyota, which bodes very well for the future, which may or may not be without with Gene Haas, for who knows. Gene might want to sell the team, he might want more involvement from Toyota. The option is now there. He's got a manufacturer on board as well. And, we don't give out the trophies for Team Principal of the Year, but Ayo Komatsu would be my Team Principal of the Year because of the way the team, where they were and where they are now, with the potential to go forward.
Exactly, and I mean, I think they're going to utilise Toyota's tools heavily as well. As we look at Bottas here doing his homework, studying the data, so you see all the data traces. I love it, with this high-tech world of Formula One that we live in. A little bit of paper handed to the driver to study the squiggly lines of the blues and the reds, and you can compare your own performance, so either yourself, a previous lap you've done, or that of your teammate. And it's funny that back in my day, Crofty, we didn't have that luxury of looking at other teams' data. But today, all the teams see everything that everyone's doing. They see their straight line speed, the slow speed corners.
Well, we do as well.
We can as well, and it's great.
Alex Albon backing off. Quite sure why. It's not to get some space. Has he got an issue here? Alex Albon is one of 3 cars out on the track, and he might have an issue here. He's in 3rd gear at the moment, but there doesn't seem to be much coming from the throttle.
I don't know, it's up the drive line, flash out.
Has he put his foot on the throttle and there's been no response? There's definitely some sort of power, and it's not completely shut off, but that's a worrying sign, and he just takes to the escape road. He's going to just limp home, or try and limp home.
Yeah, he's definitely not able to accelerate. Whatever his physical throttle position is doing, at least from the data we could see on the Halo graphics, it wasn't. Yeah, and again, the throttle.
Hang on, listen. Oh, there's still a little bit.
Well, is that just the engine on idle? No, he is able to control the throttle slightly. So when did it kick in?
So into or out of turn 5.
Well, yeah, that did sound weird, didn't it?
Yeah. So out of turn 5, when he tried to get his foot on the gas, and see there's some smoke coming from there as well, which is never a good sign.
That was the brake. That's the right rear brake. Put my tongue back in. And we've seen this from Williams in the past, didn't we? A couple of years ago. Was it last year? Winter testing in Bahrain. They had a brake disc explode or something happened, and I wonder if it's something to do with the regen, or I don't know what's going on there, but it's something we've seen from Williams in the past.
Has he got back yet? No, but he is making his way down the pit lane right now, Alex Albon. Don't know if Ted's anywhere near Williams or can see Alex limping home. we get live Ted Kravitz sniffer vision if he's around. Got any nasty smells coming from that Williams engine?
Charming. No, I don't think it's the engine. I mean, they're having a look at it as we speak. Oh, it's loose. Oh, the right rear is completely wonky. I just saw it completely. I just saw it being wonky. Did he say drive shaft? Did he say drive line? He said drive shaft.
Drive line.
Drive line, yeah.
I'm pretty sure the mechanic just touched the right rear, and that wheel was wonky. We got a camera down here straight away. Let's have a look. As left rear as we look at it.
Oh yeah, it doesn't.
That's wonky.
It came off very
and
easily.
That is a technical term for on the wonk.
Tyre wasn't fitted on properly.
No, had he just come out? I don't remember him just coming out for. Was it the beginning of a long run?
I think it was.
Oh dear. No, I think it's more they're looking at a hub failure or actually an axle. Or maybe. Well, I'm just looking at it as you're looking at it, but that tyre and that wheel looked like. But it wasn't the tyre would have been. I think it's the whole hub. I think it's the whole cake tin, including the cake tin. Because if it was just the tyre, surely that would have come off, or maybe it was being held on by the retaining device.
Yeah. I think he'd come out for an outlap, and that was his first race
beginning of the push.
lap.
Yeah, I think that's a hub. That's a right rear corner that's broken. The toe link there somewhere. But yeah, no, saw it straight as it came in.
So did it?
Williams out.
Exactly.
The question is therefore, did it break and then cause it to overheat, or did the overheating cause the breakage?
I'm not smelling any. Where have we seen fire or flames or smoke?
He came through turn 5, Ted, on the slow-mo, and you could see it glowing red hot.
Ah, the brake disc. Yes, you mentioned.
Yeah, and it was smoking as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm not smelling any brake. Normally that brake, I'll just give an extra sniff on camera, so you can do it. But normally you can smell the acrid burning carbon brake disc. It's unmistakable, but I'm not getting any of that as he came in. So I assume that's just a byproduct, a consequence of the broken hub. Or maybe something overheated on the brake and then melted, as you say, Anthony. Maybe that was the cause and effect. Anyway, I'll get some official from Williams, who are having a busy old session with informing us of the problems with their cars, but thanks to them for doing that, because it's good information. You want to know as much as we do, and I'll get back to you.
Thanks ever so much, Ted. See, I knew he'd be on the scene.
It's always on the scene.
So wherever that scene might be. 1.7 seconds separating Lando Norris down to Franco Colapinto. Fastest to slowest in this session. But both Colapinto and Albon out now. And Colapinto didn't even get the chance with that damaged floor to get a lap in, or a best lap in, on those soft compound tyres.
I don't know if you've mentioned this already, Crofty. You probably have. I wasn't listening, but I wonder why Russell was down in P13. Did we see that?
We saw him run wide at the final corner on his one of his laps.
I remember Piastri running wide, but yeah, I didn't see George's push lap, because with Lewis up there in P5 splitting the Ferraris looks quite good for him. But yeah, I was just wondered why, as we ride on board now with Russell on the medium tyres, so clearly on a long run with 10 minutes to go.
Let's talk George Russell. Is he right to take the fight off the track to Max Verstappen? Does that serve his and Mercedes' purpose in trying to expose the truth as they see it, or is he wise to pick his battles to something else for the future?
I don't think one should ever shy away from competition or your competitors. And I think George is he's a sure-footed character. He likes things his own way. He's intelligent, and that's why he heads up the Grand Prix Drivers Association, the GPDA, as you often hear us talk about. So he's clearly got an eye for detail, and I wouldn't say it's like calling someone out, but that's his way of dealing with it, rightly or wrongly. As Verstappen there was off track in turn 1, so there's a corner where he can still run over the white lines.
I mean, the argument being Max Verstappen.
On 2-3, I hit the quite hard, like on the flank, for your information. Information received, thank you.
The inference of Max Verstappen angry because of the way George Russell was explaining what happened in Qatar on that qualifying cool lap and felt George was over-egging it and, in his quotes, lying to the stewards. George not happy that Max was talking for 5 minutes and swearing in the stewards' room and basically coming up with an argument that George didn't agree with. Should that stay in the stewards' room, or is it right that they've brought it out into the public arena? They've had their say, the team principals have had their say too. Christian Horner, the latest to say, after being accused of being a terrier by Toto Wolff, I'd rather be a terrier than a wolf, which could be a song that is sung around the grandstands in the future.
Yeah, there's a lot of mudslinging going on there, and I think even Christian touched on it at one point. He said, you know, it has been a long season.
Currently, you are managing turn 15 more than others. What do you mean currently? I've done 1 lap.
See what I mean?
That's the data.
Yeah, he's a factually driven person. So what do you mean? Yeah, currently conserving more around turn 15 for tyre preservation work. And he's well, I've only done 1 lap. What do you mean?
Great, but a small sample size there, Marcus.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. So is it just mudslinging? Does it carry on and transfer over to next year, or do they go and have a lie down over the winter?
I think Max is a very matter-of-fact person. You get him at face value, and he's a tough nut. He's a hard character. That's what I like about him. But George is he's a stickler for detail, and I think it's just two characters clashing, coming together, and you know, it makes great sport. It's brilliant for us here. I wouldn't want to be in either of their position myself, but they're quite happy, obviously, in their own unique ways to battle each other. Whether it's on track or off track, but I like that in George. I like that he's standing up for himself. I like that he's fighting back, and he might have, like the stewards, like in the stewards' room, he maybe caused a bit more drama maybe than there should have been in over-egging the situation on track as well. But that's what you're going to do as a driver. You're going to say, hey, look what they've just done to me. I'm sure if I'd done that to somebody else, I would have had a penalty. So yeah, penalise this guy. And Max didn't like that. He would prefer to have maybe a chat outside of the stewards' room and have a big old bust up and move on and carry on with life. But
Alex Albon, by the way, as you can see back out on track, that right corner looks pretty well fixed.
The right rear, that was I was thinking,
which makes me think it was tyre related, not right corner related.
Well, wheel related.
Yes.
Was it not on properly?
No. Just going back to Qatar, the inference, by the way, why was Max going so slowly? Well, he says, I was letting Lando Norris or Fernando Alonso pass. We've seen it on the Sky pad.
Which he was.
Which he does, but he then doesn't make much of an effort to keep in touch or to improve his slow lap, which was 18 seconds slower than he was allowed to go. So why was he doing that? Well, the inference being he was doing that because that was the best way to prepare his tyres, so he was getting a performance advantage out of going that slowly.
So the reason why Alonso overtook him on that lap, for those of you who have seen it, I know I did it on the Sky pad at the time, but for those of you who didn't, he was going so slowly because it was his second cool-down lap after having had a push lap, and Alonso was on his out lap. Yes. So he had come out of the pits and trying to generate heat into his tyres. So you
treat the tyres differently depending on the stages of use.
That's the game they're playing. So you would let someone by if they're catching you naturally. But a lot of the reason why they were catching Max so quickly is because he was way down on his delta, or up on his delta. He was slower than his delta. And the stewards didn't like that. There's a regulation in place, as George rightly pointed out, a regulation in place where you can't go too slowly driving above your delta, and because you could get into trouble. We saw other drivers during qualifying get reprimands for doing just that. Problem for Max, of course, is the action of driving too slowly, and the engineer coming on the radio and saying, don't worry about your delta.
Yeah.
They really didn't like that. Really didn't like the engineer coming on and telling him that.
29.2.
They are so fast.
In terms of a race simulation.
Yeah, so it swung around here. We had Zach saying to us earlier on, the Ferraris look really like they got the edge. Well, not in race pace. It seems it's the other way around. and also with the McLarens seeming to do better in this session in FP2. So, yeah, the teams are sometimes a bit quick to jump to conclusions. We're guilty of it as well, but yeah.
Well, Nico Hulkenberg is going to finish on the podium, as you know, because he's third fastest on the one lap. And Kevin Magnussen's eighth fastest. It's going to be a brilliant weekend for Haas.
It might well be. So Max has got to sort out this this understeer, hasn't he? He's been complaining about it the whole session as we watch his teammate Perez come towards turn 6. And like this in the nighttime session, the drivers run the clear visors. You get to see the concentration on the drivers' faces. He's looking down at the dash there. You check your delta, maybe making some switch changes before a faster corner like turn 9 comes up at you. But yeah, Verstappen down there in P17, a second away, and complaining all the time of the understeer in the car, which Perez prefers, doesn't he?
Yes.
We know that he prefers a car more stable on the rear, a little bit of understeer in it, and lo and behold, he's a few places, for what it's worth, ahead of his teammate at this stage.
You realise we've barely talked about Sergio Perez at all during this session. Losing grip on the rears, George Russell.
Yeah, and that's not what you want, not around this track, particularly on a race run. You don't want in that final sector the rear to be moving around. And after this session, there'll all be the team back in Brackley who'll be working hard on the simulator, I'm sure, to try and go through a few options for tomorrow's FP3 and try and sort the car out.
We've barely talked, and we might not have talked at all about Sergio Perez during the course of this session, because it just hasn't been eye-catching, shall we say. Down in P14, just over a second off the pace. But saying that, ahead of his teammate Max Verstappen in terms of his fastest lap.
And as we know, looking Qatar as well, the Red Bull team are very good at turning a car around, and you give them enough time on track, they'll be spending time in the simulator as well tonight, probably doing it already straight away after FP1. And they'll be working to go through all of the different setup permutations, and these cars are incredibly hard to set up, these ground effect cars. They're right on a knife edge, and you can either hit that sweet spot like Mercedes were in Vegas, for example, or you look at where McLaren were at that race as well, just as a contradiction. You know, they're fast car everywhere, and they go to Vegas and they're kind of out of the window, and they don't really know why. Engineers can try and hypothesize or tell you with the facts that this is why we were slow or this is why we were fast, but these cars are so tricky to set up these days that any kind of ride height adjustment or any extra roll compliance that you put into the car for drivability over curbs, for example, you know, that can really skew how the floor of the car works, and you can very quickly fall into the trap of getting lost in setup.
You realise there's like a tenth of a second from Tsunoda down to Verstappen, 10th down to 17th.
Yeah, I didn't know.
It's so tight in that area.
But the front runners, you've got huge chunks of time. It's 6/10 to Lewis in P5.
Yeah.
Which we're not used to seeing. This show, look at this ahead, his head leaning heavily on the side of the cockpit there. Really goes to show he's a massive, strong bloke, isn't he, Hulkenberg? What more has he got to do to hold his head up? And he's there, head lolling around like a rag doll, getting thrown from left to right. Wow, these cars.
Well, they've come from Qatar, which was physically exhausting for the drivers. I was chatting to Nico and to Max about it yesterday. They were saying, "Oh, did you see Lando's head, you know, leaning to the side?" Yeah, we were struggling a bit as well because it was so brutal for them in Qatar.
If we stay on board through turn 9, I hope we do, you'll get to see it again. So the slower speed corners, less G-force being pulled through 6 and 7, it's okay. As we come towards turn 9 though, and he gets into the mid-corner here, I'm fully expecting the head to hang on in there, and they go slowly over to the right-hand side on the exit maybe, and just he's hanging on, look at that. It's impressive the amount of G you'll get, and they're going slower, of course, on a race run than what you would do around on qualifying. But the problem with Qatar is at such low tyre degradation, they're driving flat out all the time, not preserving their tyres like they are here.
Nico Hulkenberg then to the end of another lap. This is somewhere around 129, 130. That's a really good lap. It's actually a 128.9 from Nico Hulkenberg.
They're consistently fast, aren't they?
Yeah, they quite like those soft tyres. That 9 laps that soft tyre's done that he's on as well.
And I know you can run in a free practice session the engine mode a bit more powerful. You can find at least 5-6 tenths from just the PU, the power unit. And then the fuel, as we know, you can gain or lose 6 seconds of performance from running 5 kilos of fuel to your 100.
So they all play around with the fuel loads. Try and keep everybody guessing. Lando Norris never finished in the top 4 in Abu Dhabi. He has got a 100% point scoring record here. He's never qualified lower than 7, but he's never finished in the top 4. Well, he might have a very good chance to end that record this weekend. He is fastest in the representative practice session, and he's fastest by over 2 tenths from his teammate Oscar Piastri. And well, I'm sure that McLaren would quite like the likes of Nico Hulkenberg to be right up there in qualifying as well, and try and put at least another car between themselves and Ferrari. Carlos Sainz, 4th fastest. Charles Leclerc may be looking a little bit more towards race setup tonight, 6th fastest, because they're going to have to do some overtaking wherever he qualifies from, because he has that 10-place grid penalty.
Yeah, Ferrari might be looking to run a little bit less wing now and focus in on that, for example, with Hulkenberg waving at fans at the side of the track there around the hotel section. But yeah,
very popular man.
Ferrari might be, like you suggest, probably looking to run a slightly different setup to allow them to overtake cars, because that's now got to become the mission. He has to try to qualify as well as possible, of course, tomorrow, but then if he can start P11 on the grid, then with that 10 place penalty, then his mission is to finish 2nd if his teammate is to win, because that's what Ferrari need to do.
Absolutely. Which might just be a tall order, but we will wait and see. That is the final Friday practice session done. And it is worth mentioning, car 77 in P7 as well, Valtteri Bottas, who's off the bottom of the championship now. He's moved ahead of Logan Sargent with that 11th place finish in Qatar. Now we just need some points, Valtteri. It's never been pointless before in any of your previous seasons in Formula One. Let's end not on a pointless weekend. 246 start in Formula One this weekend. Same as David Coulthard, same as Lewis Hamilton with Mercedes. And the winner of the 2017 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, one of 5 drivers to finish as runner-up in the championship, more than once without winning. Let's get him a point this weekend. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, 1 and 2 for McLaren. It ends up like that after qualifying for the race. Constructors champions. Nico Hulkenberg, 3rd fastest for Haas. Fine performance from him. Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton completing the top 5. Charles Leclerc with a 10-place grid penalty was 6th fastest. And that Haas pace is not a fluke from Nico Hulkenberg, with Kevin Magnussen right up there in 8th. Alex Albon and Yuki Tsunoda complete the top 10. George Russell outside the top 10. Sergio Perez outside the top 10. Max Verstappen complaining about the drivability of his car, complaining more about understeering his car, 2nd off the pace down in 17th. Like Qatar, they're going to have to find answers overnight. We'll see what happens when they come back to the track for FP3 tomorrow.